The case of Erin Patterson would seem to be without precedent in the annals of crime. But we found a case in America with eerie parallels to Patterson's Beef Wellington plot. Indianapolis, Indiana. Home of America's premier car race, the Indy 500.
It's the world's largest attended single-day sporting event.
It's an unlikely setting for the only other case ever investigated of murder by mushrooms.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Over North Road, there's a dead body laying in the ditch. It's a male, I'd say, I don't know, older, 30s, 40s, maybe 50s.
Friday, April 24, 2020. The half-naked body of a man is found lying in a ditch in Hamilton County, just outside the city.
He was found shirtless in a ditch with a pair of sweatpants on, no shoes or socks, no vehicles around, no identification. His pockets were turned inside out. There was no debris on his bottom of his feet, so he hadn't walked there. No signs of trauma, but it was obvious he had been dead for a few days.
Detective Greg Lockhart from the local sheriff's office was the lead investigator. Establishing the victim's name as computer specialist David Fouts, Greg first questioned his wife, Katrina.
The last time I heard from him was on Tuesday.
You never know how people are going to react to the news that their loved one's dead. So we got some of the best details we could from her at that time. Her stories were all over that he wanted to commit suicide. He had attempted suicide in the past. And then she told us a story about him having cheated on her that previous year with the housekeeper. And she became very irate when she spoke about that.
This can't be happening to me. We were going to try to make this marriage work.
But Fouts' cause of death was a mystery.
You know, we bagged the hands. We're going to take the clothes off. We're going to examine the clothes. We noticed remnants or residue of duct tape about his wrists and ankles. We examined him with a black light or an alternate light source, looking for any injection marks. We had no signs of any trauma about his body. So the next step is it's either going to be an overdose. You know, is it possible he had overdosed and someone dumped him there because they were afraid? Is it something he had eaten, or had he been poisoned? The next step was to take the stomach contents. And when we looked in his stomach, there was almost nothing except these little chunks of what appeared to be mushrooms. So we quickly found out a lot about mycology.
When other aspects of Katrina Fouts' story began falling apart, Greg was certain she had killed her husband and that the murder weapon was mushrooms.
There's ones like the death cap mushroom or the angel of death, which by and large, unfortunately, if you eat that, you're probably going to succumb to that poison in that mushroom.
The mushroom identified in David Fouts' stomach was not a death cap, but another potentially deadly species containing the toxin muscarine.
And that's what we found out was in his system.
But just as with Erin Patterson in Australia, proving it was another matter. There were Katrina's web searches for deadly mushrooms and no attempt to call her husband after the night of his death.
And the day he went missing, she never even tried to call him again, never sent him a text. And then we found that that night, or the night he came up missing on a Tuesday, she shut off her GPS services on her phone, which in the history of that device had never been done. It's a huge change of life pattern.
Greg faced many of the same challenges encountered by Victorian detectives.
We called several different labs to try to test for the toxin in samples of his liver, his urine, his blood. We're sending these pieces to these different labs. Well, what we quickly found out was for that muscarine, there was no test. Oh, by the way, after 72 hours, that toxin metabolizes out of the body regardless if you're alive or dead. So in the end, we didn't even have that as evidence. The mushrooms are in his stomach. Therefore, we know that mushroom has the toxin in it, but you can't test for the toxin because when we find him, he's been dead for more than 72 hours. So in the end, we don't even get a positive test for muscarine or the toxin in his system.
Despite all the circumstantial evidence, prosecutors in Hamilton County didn't have enough to definitively prove Katrina killed David Fouts with mushrooms.
The toxin would have encumbered him, made him very easy to subdue. And whether the toxin is what ended up killing him or some form of a blood or vascular choke to his neck, it wouldn't have taken much with the way he would have been compromised. I think one of those two ways. There's only one person that's alive that truly knows at this point, and I don't think she's going to tell me.
Katrina was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and is now serving a 34-year sentence. After the break, we meet the Australian man who ate death-cap mushrooms and, incredibly, survived.
After about the 7th day, I was basically saying my goodbyes.
The man you're about to meet is lucky to be alive, really lucky. Simon Claringbold from Canberra unknowingly put 3 death-cap mushrooms in his spaghetti bolognese. That decision almost proved fatal.
I was doing some gardening and it was fairly hot, and I can remember I was working pretty hard. Garden was a bit unkempt. And while I was gardening and raking up leaves, I found some pretty big mushrooms in the backyard and they looked okay to me. So I picked them and put them in the kitchen and told my wife, hey, I'm going to have these on my dinner. My wife was looking at them and she said, we'll cut all these green bits off. So she cut away a lot of the mushrooms before I added them to my spaghetti bolognese. Thankfully, my wife or my 3 children didn't eat the mushrooms. I can remember how tasteless the mushrooms were. Like, I expected them to actually give a bit of zing to the spaghetti bolognese, but they didn't. They taste like boiled tripe. That night I had was vomiting and had diarrhoea, and my wife said, I bet you it's those dodgy mushrooms you had yesterday. So I rang my doctor, and I was just feeling dehydrated and not that bad, but the doctor came around in the morning and took me straight to hospital. My liver was failing, and so when they were taking blood tests from pinpricks on my fingers, so the blood wasn't coagulating. So the risk with liver failure is you basically die from internal hemorrhaging. They'd basically correctly diagnosed I was mushroom poisoned. Death-cap mushrooms. I had that like 48 hours of knowing that I'm probably going to die. So that was like saying goodbye to people and children. So that was all pretty scary, as you can imagine, yeah. They didn't say you're going to die. I could deduce that I was going to die from the test results. And this is what the Leon Gather 4 would have gone through. And 1 survived. He turned the corner like I did. But I could have just been like the 3 people that died. You know, it's just complete luck. They would have passed out and not woken up. To think it was someone had put them through that experience, it's just shocking. The Royal Prince Alfred Hospital liver specialist called me a lucky man. I've randomly survived. It was random.